Welcome back. You guys have been asking a lot of questions, and one of the things that we get asked quite a lot about, and actually just had somebody in the shop earlier today with this exact issue, is the evolution of sound of the guitar over time. Actually, after that last video I did with Brandon and how to break in a guitar and what to expect, there's a lot of questions that you guys asked about how the sound changes and if it affects anything. So I know that on the internet there's a whole lot of things saying that cedar doesn't change. Does it change?
Yes, they all change.
They all change.
Everything changes.
I guess we'll just start off with the first question, which is, does the construction method of the guitar affect the way it breaks in?
It does. I mean, if you have an extremely thick and heavy guitar, it's going to be very resistive to vibrating. I suppose it depends on what we define breaking in. Right. I mean, there's two things that happen when we string a guitar. The first thing that happens is the structure that we just spent a couple of months building has to now get used to being under this tension, which we designed it to be under.
Right.
So it takes it a while to get settled and get to that point. But secondly, it needs to get used to being vibrated musically, which is where the player comes in. Now the player needs to play the instrument. The more you play it, the more the instrument gets used to vibrating. Well, what actually occurs in the wood? Who knows? The only thing I can say, and this is from my experience of 60 years of spontaneous comments from really top-level players who I've seen them time and time again pick up an instrument that I know factually has either not been played very much or has been played very much, and it doesn't always appear that way. Some instruments have been played a lot but still look very pristine. Others will look just beat to crap and haven't been played a lot. But the players will spontaneously comment, oh, this guitar doesn't sound like it's broken in yet, or it sounds still kind of unbroken in, or this guitar sounds like it's really opened up.
Yep.
And this is a phenomenon of the players and the musicians that are good. They sense it and they know it. So I know it happens. So there you are.
Yeah, one of the things that I've noticed, and I'm coming from the violin side, is that when you are playing an instrument that is really old, and guitars, I'm sorry, your guitars are not old. Okay, an old guitar for us, and I feel this one all the time. I got a really old guitar. It's from the 80s.
Yeah.
So am I. I guess I'm really old too.
Yeah, right.
How do you make it makes him feel, right?
Someone born in the first half of the last century.
In the last millennium.
Yes. Now I feel old.
One of the things that I've noticed playing a lot of these old violins, and by old I mean like 1710, 1715, 1690, 1650, is that when they've been played well, they have a tendency to want to encourage you as a musician to play something else because they have done it in the past.
Yeah.
And if you listen to that instrument and not just play like a machine, you'll actually find that you can find new levels of expressiveness inside of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the breaking in. Now, one of the things that, at least in my mind, and we're going to go from like 1600s, 15th century, because it doesn't make sense, all the way up to now, when you put a brand new set of strings onto a guitar, one of the things that I think happens is that as it gets used to it, we're doing certain things like putting the tension onto the top. So we're loading the braces and tensioning the braces as the bridge twists.
The guitar is getting momentarily or stressed under that tension, which it's going to be under for the rest of its life.
Right, ideally.
As we intend.
Right.
Yes.
And then also, as you are pulling on it, you've got the neck that is pulling into the fret barbs, and those, I think, are kind of gently seating into the fingerboard itself.
Hey, there's a lot of little microscopic things that are all going on. I'm sure if we got into the microscopic level of it, we'd see what was going on. But yes, all of that's happening.
But at the end of it, we are now taking wood, which was a structural thing.
Yes.
It was structure for the tree.
Yeah.
It was literally its muscles and whatnot. And we are now asking it to do something completely different. To me, in my mind, it's kind of like stretching out before you exercise. And, it's like, it's asking it to do something that it wasn't supposed to be doing.
Some woods will actually creep or change their shape over a long period of stress. Others are more resistant to that. Some woods will deflect a lot more initially and then stop deflecting.
Right,
And other woods that sometimes seem a little stiffer may be initially more resistive to the deflection, but over continued attention, they continue to deform. Oak is one of those woods that's really bad about that.
We saw a harpsichord with a frame that was made out of red oak, and it looked like a dog trying to take a leak on a telephone pole.
Yeah. The old English Kirkman harpsichords had an oak bent side, and that bent side and cheek piece on them would drop down over a long period of time because of the tension of the strings, to the point where you see their stands and they've cut 2 or 3 inches off of the one leg of the stand, because otherwise the harpsichord was starting to rock.
Right.
So yes, that happens.
When we talk about the spruce breaking in, and we fielded this question many times, it's I can see my braces through the top.
You're supposed to.
Yeah, it's the sign of a good guitar. That means that they didn't leave too much wood. My bridge is bellying.
Well, that's going to. That's all part of it.
Yeah, it's torque. I mean, actually, what we can do is we can pull out, I don't know, one of these. Let's go with this one.
Yeah.
With this one, you can see that there is a definite hollow in front of the bridge, because you've got this rotation being pulled from the top of the bridge into it, and it bellies up. Under modern conventions, one would say that this guitar is about to fall apart.
No, not at all.
And I can tell you that with a fair amount of certainty that this guitar twisted into the shape within probably the first month.
Maybe. This is all the original finish on here, and therefore the top has all the original thicknesses on it.
By the way, this is a 1925 Simplicio, so this guitar is 101 years old.
Yes.
Pick it up before it explodes.
The thing with this, and this is true for most of these older Spanish instruments, when Simplicio was making that top, he was flexing it between his thumb and forefingers until he felt it was just strong enough and no more. And that's where he left it. Now, if you were to take that guitar and scrape all that finish off there, because there's a few marks on it and you're freaking out and you're thinking, oh my God, in another month it's gonna look like Welly Nelson's trigger. The worst thing you could do is take all that finish off there, scrape it down, sand it back, and try to make it all look fresh, because now you've thinned it even further, and now it's definitely going to turn into a Marcel potato chip.
We actually saw Garcia not terribly long ago where that had happened.
Yeah.
And I mean, that one is close to scary.
That's a huge, huge hit to the value of the instrument.
It is. In our opinion, it takes about half of the value out of the guitar if you refinish
Don't do that.
Do you think that plywood guitars break in?
I don't see why they wouldn't. I don't have a lot of experience with plywood guitars. My first guitar was a Giannini from Brazil, and it had a plywood top. I played it incessantly. It did seem to get better with time, but that might have been just me because I was learning to play guitar. I don't know.
I guess we have to differentiate between plywood and then laminated sides. And
Well, by plywood, I assume you're talking about 2 layers this way and a center layer cross grain.
Yeah,
Basically crisscross construction like a piece of plywood would be.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, very affordable. I've actually heard a couple of these fairly recently where the person is quite an accomplished player. They use it as like a secondary or tertiary instrument. They actually don't sound terrible if they've been played really, really well. And I think that goes to stand to a point with the whole notion of the mechanical inducers.
Yeah.
That playing music is important.
Well, you know, many of those Japanese guitars from the 60s had plywood tops, sides, and backs.
Right.
And they sound pretty good, and that's because the model, the design, and the dimensions were all pretty much right on the money. It's just that they made them out of plywood that was sliced with a slicing machine as opposed to sawing solid wood out from solid tree trunks, which involves a lot of wasted wood.
Right.
And that was basically why it was done that way, was for economy.
I would almost say that it's more work to make a plywood top than it is to just use a top.
For us luthiers, that's absolutely the case, because we don't have the equipment, the technological equipment to slice those big trees into those thin sheets of veneer.
Yeah, and by thin sheets, we mean like about not quite a 1/16 of an inch.
Yeah, They're sliced, and they're sliced very carefully so they don't crack the wood
Yeah.
as they're slicing.
They don't get any cracks, and they don't get the compression checks, nor do they get.
Plywood guitar is actually a marvel of modern engineering technology.
It really is, because by all rights, you're asking a whole lot of glue joints to do a whole lot of stuff that they aren't designed to do.
Yes.
You're asking two different disparate woods to do something that they never wanted to do together, and all that to actually come out with something that sounds pretty darn good.
Yeah, they're pretty amazing, actually. So, yes.
Do you think a guitar ever stops breaking in?
That's a question we can't really answer because no one's been around that long. Most guitars are capable of outliving us by centuries.
And a lot of them have already.
And they already have. We don't know how they sounded when they were new, so I would say based on violins,
Yeah.
I don't see why that wouldn't apply to a guitar.
The one that strikes me
Yes?
was the 1888 Taurus, the maple one.
Yes.
As seen in Rob Scallon's This Guitar's $275,000 video, and also Brandon's, a lot of Brandon's videos, and
Yes.
so on and so forth. One of the things I noticed about that guitar is that once we finished up that restoration on it, it kind of sounded fresh, but not.
We tightened up a lot of stuff that was had come loose from neglect and abuse and bad repairs previous and so on.
Don't forget about the lack of humidity control
Right.
at the time of inception.
And those things all rob, utility from a good instrument. Yes.
And when we put it back together fully, I noticed that like you could hear that old sound,
Yeah.
but it still sounded kind of new-ish because it's like getting new knees, I guess. I don't know. I haven't done it yet.
Well, the fingerboard with the new frets had to get, used to be under tension, so there.
Right.
There.
But what my thought was is that when I heard you start to play it right after you put strings onto it, I thought, wow, this is really good. And then in 5 minutes, it was a different instrument. And then 5 minutes later, it was a different instrument.
It hadn't been played for a long time because it wasn't playable.
Right. And then a long time after that, even when Brandon played it the first time, after he played it for like 10 minutes, it was one of those things where it started to sound like him. So I think that the notion of an old guitar stopping breaking in and buying a guitar that's already broken in is kind of an anathema because it's adapting to you. It may know how to do a lot of the sounds, but it doesn't know how you create those
That's
sounds.
right, because each player has their own individual touch. And the guitar has to learn to respond to that to get more efficient at that. The more you play it, the more efficient it gets at that. It's a cross-linking kind of endeavor between the instrument and the player, and that happens no matter what the age of the guitar is and how much it's been played.
And that's why the Spaniards say tocar la guitarra, not jugar la guitarra.
That's right. That's right.
In America, we just say we play the guitar like we play soccer.
Like juggling. Oh, sorry. There.
Oops, dropped it. And I suppose the last bit that I want to get to is the fingerboards. Do they ever dry out?
Well, wood has an equilibrium for a certain humidity level. Some woods take a while to get there, but eventually, if they're kept in one humidity equilibrium level, the moisture content equalizes to that. If you make the surrounding atmosphere drier, that wood will lose the moisture to come to equilibrium with the surrounding atmosphere. Conversely, if the atmosphere gains moisture from what was in the wood, it will infuse back into the wood.
So you're saying that I don't need to buy a moisturizer for my fingerboard?
No. Any of these waxes or polishes are snake oil. They don't do anything to prevent movement if the fingerboard wasn't properly seasoned before it was attached to the guitar.
So basically, if your fingerboard looks dry, you probably just need to clean it. And a little bit of soap and water does that.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for sticking with us. I really appreciate all of you who keep on clicking and commenting. If you want to keep him entertained, put some more comments down there. And I got to tell you, he's hard to entertain. So